Disclaimer: this is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardimes, to use this as an educational material.
Our objectives for this topic. First, define human trafficking and understand its impact. 2. Explore the link between human trafficking and migration. 3. Identify and promote human rights in migration. And lastly, analyze the impact of human trafficking on globalization.
So, human trafficking is the trade of humans for the purpose of forced labor, sexual slavery, or commercial sexual exploitations. So, human trafficking can occur within a country or transnationally. It is a distinct from people smuggling, which is characterized by the conscience of the persons being smuggled. So, human trafficking is condemned as a violations of human rights by international conventions, but legal protections varies globally. The practice has millions of victims around the world. So, modern slavery, human trafficking is a form of modern slavery where individuals are exploited for profit through forced labor or sexual exploitations or other form or abuse. Next, we have the control and coercions. So, traffickers use force, fraud, or coercions to recruit, transfer, harbor, or exploit victims, often depriving them of their freedom and basic human rights. Lastly, we have the global problem. So, global problem, human trafficking is a global issue affecting millions of people across all continents with significant consequence for individuals, communities, and societies. That's all.
Examples of human trafficking. 1. Forced labor. Forced labor is a common form of human trafficking where individuals are coerced into working in harsh, exploitative conditions. Victims may be trapped in jobs with little or no pay, so sometimes working extreme hours without proper rest or safety measures. So, this form of trafficking occurs across various industries including factories, agriculture, construction, and domestic service. Workers may be controlled through threats, debts, so where they told they owe money for recruitment or travel, or even physical violence. Often traffickers confiscate victims' identification documents, making escape difficult. Next is sexual exploitation. Sexual exploitation is one of the most recognized forms of human trafficking, where individuals, including minors, are forced into prostitution, pornography, or other forms of sexual slavery. So victims may be lured with false promises of legitimate work or relationships, only to be deceived into the sex trade. They are often subjected to abuse, manipulation, and isolation, making it hard for them to live or seek help. Traffickers may use threats of violence, blackmail, financial control to keep victims dependent and compliant. Next is organ harvesting. So, organ trafficking involves the exploitation of individuals to illegally harvest their organs, such as kidneys, liver, corneas, and etc., for transplant procedures. This type of trafficking often targets vulnerable individuals who may be deceived with promises of money or employment, so only to be forced into surgeries that remove organs against their will or under dangerous conditions. Traffickers may also target those in desperate situations, such as refugees or impoverished individuals who may feel compelled to sell an organ under false pretenses. Organ harvesting is particularly unethical as it subjects individuals to severe health risk, trauma, and even death, with traffickers prioritizing profit over their victims' safety. So, these examples of human trafficking reveals the brutal ways of traffickers exploit people for labor, sexual services, or even body parts, driven by profit and enabled by coercion, deception, and violence. The physical, emotional, and psychological harm inflicted on victims is extensive, impacting not only their lives but also their families and communities.
The three elements of human trafficking. Human trafficking is a serious violation of human rights involving the exploitation of individuals for labor, sex, or organs. To identify and combat trafficking, it's essential to understand their core elements. First element is act, requirement transportation. The use of force, coercion, or deception to recruit, transport, or harbor individuals. These include luring, kidnapping, or selling people into trafficking situations. Second element is means, control, coercion, the use of threats, violence, or psychological manipulation to control victims. This includes confiscating passport, restricting movement, or imposing deep bondage. Third element is purpose, exploitation, the intention of exploit victims for financial or material gain. This include forcing individuals into labor, domestic, agricultural, or industrial work, sex trafficking, prostitution, pornography, or sexual exploitation. Organ trafficking is removal and sale of organs. Example: act is a requirement with false promises. Means is controlled through passport, confiscating and threats. And purpose, exploitation for labor. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Decadent Astronomo, and now let's proceed to the next topic, which is what is the current state of human trafficking in the Philippines? The Philippines has made significant strides in combating human trafficking, retaining its Tier 1 status in the 2024 Trafficking in Persons report by the U.S. State Department. This ranking indicates that the country has met the minimum standards for eliminating human trafficking. The government's efforts includes investigating and prosecuting traffickers, implementing anti-trafficking laws, and providing support to victims. Vulnerability. The Philippines is a source, transit, and destination country for human trafficking due to factors like poverty, unemployment, and lack of awareness. Common forms. Trafficking for domestic work, forced labor for in factories and farms, and sexual exploitation are prevalent in the Philippines. Government efforts. The Philippine government has enacted laws and policies to combat human trafficking, but challenges remains in enforcement and victim protection. Despite progress, human trafficking remains a concern in the Philippines. The country is a source, transit, and destination point for human trafficking with victims exploiting in various industries such as domestic work, forced labor, and sex trafficking. To combat human trafficking effectively, the Philippine government, civil society, and international partners must address these challenges and vulnerabilities through sustained effort in prevention, protection, and prosecution.
Good day everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about how can you relate human trafficking to migration. Human trafficking and migration are deeply interconnected phenomena, influenced by various socio-economic factors and legal frameworks. Understanding their relationship involves examining how migration can lead to human trafficking and vice versa. So the dynamics of human trafficking and migration. Migration led human trafficking. This dynamic occurs when individuals migrate in search of better opportunities but become victims of trafficking during their journey or upon arrival at their destination. Vulnerable groups, such as refugees or those fleeing conflict and poverty, often find themselves at risk. For example, migrants may rely on smugglers for passage, who might then exploit them through coercive tactics and deception. Trafficking led migration. Conversely, trafficking led migration refers to scenarios where traffickers manipulate individuals into migrating for exploitative purposes. Traffickers often pose legitimate recruiters, offering jobs abroad, leading victims to situations of forced labor or sexual exploitation once they arrive. The factors contributing to vulnerability. Several factors the vulnerability of migrants to human trafficking. Restrictive immigration policies. Tight immigration controls can push individuals toward irregular migration routes, making them more susceptible to traffickers. Economic hardship. Economic instability drives people to seek better opportunities abroad, increasing their risk of exploitation during migration. Lack of legal protection. Insufficient access to legal migration channels and protections for asylum seekers leaves many migrants exposed to trafficking risk. Distinction between human trafficking and migrant smuggling. While human trafficking and migrant smuggling are often conflated, they are distinct crimes. Trafficking involves the exploitation of individuals through coercion or deception for purposes such as forced labor or sexual exploitation. In contrast, migrant smuggling primarily refers to the illegal transportation of individuals across borders with their consent, primarily for financial gain. However, the lines can blur when smugglers exploit their clients' vulnerabilities, potentially lead to trafficking situations.
Human rights and migration are closely intertwined as every individual has the right to seek safety, opportunity, and better living conditions. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights affirms the right to leave one's country and seek asylum from persecution. Migrants, regardless of status, are entitled to basic protection such as the right to live, security, and protection from abuse. However, migration also exposes individuals to exploitation, trafficking, and harsh detention conditions. Balancing national sovereignty with human rights obligations is crucial, ensuring migrants' dignity is respected while addressing the root cause of migration. Global cooperation is key to safeguarding these rights. Protecting the human rights of migrants is not only a moral imperative but also a fundamental aspect of ensuring a just and equitable global society. By addressing the root cause of human trafficking, strengthening legal frameworks, and fostering collaboration, we can create a world where migrants are safe, their rights are respected, and their potential is realized.
Understanding human rights in immigration. Human rights immigration refer to the fundamental rights and protection that all individuals, regardless of their immigration status, are entitled to under international law. These rights are rooted in various global agreements such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Key human rights and principles relevant to immigration include the rights to life and liberty and security, protection from the torture and ill treatment, that rights to seek, and the rights to family unity. And immigration policies and practice should not discriminate based on race, nationality, religion, or status, and they must adhere to standards that uphold human dignity. While countries have sovereign right to control their borders, they are also obligated to respect the rights in immigrants and ensuring access to legal recourse, healthcare, and education, and the provision of these rights.
Human trafficking has several adverse effects related to globalization. First, increased vulnerability. Globalization has led to increased migration and displacement, making individuals more vulnerable to trafficking. Second, expanded markets. Globalization has created new markets and opportunities for traffickers to exploit. Third, increased supply chains. Complex global supply chains can hide trafficking and forced labor. Fourth, economic inequality. Globalization can exacerbate economic disparities, driving individuals into situations of vulnerability. Fifth, limited regulations. Globalization can lead to inconsistent or inadequate regulations, hindering anti trafficking efforts. Sixth, cultural impacts. Globalization can disrupt local cultures, potentially increasing vulnerability to trafficking. Seventh, technology facilitation. Global communication platforms can facilitate trafficking. 8. Limited law enforcement. Globalization can challenge laws. Pistin. 8. Limited law enforcement. Yawa, uy. 8. Limited law enforcement. Globalization can challenge law enforcement's 8. Limited law information. 8. Limited law enforcement. Globalization can challenge law enforcement's ability to combat trafficking. Ninth, health impacts. Trafficking can lead to physical and mental health issues. And lastly, 10th, social impacts. Trafficking can damage family and communities. And please note that these effects are complex and interconnected. Addressing human trafficking requires a multifaceted approach.